Alrighty, y'all. So the trade deadline has come and gone, and you know what? We've been talking about things very logically on the channel. We've been covering it, talking about the pros and cons of things, and I feel like that's a big reason why you guys come to my channel. Is we come for a very even-keeled, almost scientific look into the world of basketball because I've been in that world and continue to have parts in it and stuff. But today is a little bit different. Today I want you guys to see a little more human side of me, the person that is still a basketball fan at the end of the day, because I'm a Chicago Bulls fan. I'm from Chicago originally. Been a Bulls fan all my life, seen the ups and mostly the downs of it, as I was born in 99. I guess that gives you a sense for my age and everything, which wasn't a secret by any means. But, you know, I wasn't around for the Jordan era of basketball or anything. And so I've seen some good and some bad Chicago Bulls basketball in my time, but you know what? I have to say, I don't think I've ever been less of a fan than I have been at this very point of my existence, I guess. And I'm a pretty passionate guy. I'm loyal to a fault. That's something that I've always thought of myself. But the Chicago Bulls, man, it's getting difficult, and I'm frustrated at this point. I'm just annoyed, and we're literally existing in like the worst spot you can potentially be, like as a sports fan, and it's dreadfully like not even in the middle, just a little bit below that even. So you're like bad middle, lower middle, and so trade deadline comes and goes. This whole season, we're getting reports of the Bulls trying to trade people. Zach LaVine, Nikola Vucevic, right? Caruso was traded in the offseason. Kobe White's in there. Patrick Williams has got a new contract that we're not huge fans of. And so we're like, okay, they're trying to make moves. They're on the phone all the time. That's what we're hearing. And then a Zach LaVine trade finally happens. It's extremely underwhelming if you're a Bulls fan. And then nothing else. Nothing else again. Another quiet deadline. I know I have AK on here, and look, I'm going to get it out right now. Like, do I think that AK and this front office is doing a good job? No, I don't. Is it all their fault? No, not necessarily. Like, from everything I understand, the Bulls ownership group is extremely difficult to work with. They're pretty cheap. They're very obsessed with the bottom line. They do not like to go into luxury tax. That's just a thing. You can see here, Bulls, they've avoided the tax again. You got another cheap basketball team. Bulls fans, or just Chicago sports fans in general, like, they continue to be towards the top of the league in attendance, always. That's kind of a thing with Chicago fans, and so people keep coming to the games, whether you're a Bears fan, a Cubs fan, a White Sox fan, or a Blackhawks fan. People tend to show up, right? And so these owners just keep making money, and they just don't care, man. They just don't put the effort into actually making good teams, and they're always mismanaged in some capacity, and so it's extremely frustrating to me. So I'm not going to be calling for jobs or anything, mostly because I don't have a name to throw into the pile either. I don't know. I think it's rude to say that people should be fired or something like that, unless it's something like a little more like inappropriate, I guess, in that sense. But no, I don't know, man. Something's got to change though, because this is ridiculous. So we're going to talk about it. So AK goes and does the press conference post trade deadline, and he's like, hey, as I stated earlier this season, changes need to be made. Didn't really happen, did it? We're taking the opportunity to learn, pivot, and take necessary steps to reshape our team. Well, pivot is interesting, because we'll talk about that later in the video. I can tell you for a fact there's been almost no pivoting at all recently. These moves help us to have more control of our future. What's the trade they're talking about? They're talking about the Zach LaVine trade, right? So Zach LaVine got traded from the Chicago Bulls, and basically the big thing that they got back, besides Kevin Huerter, who's on a poor contract considering his play right now, Zach Collins, the exact same situation, and Trey Jones, who, as much as I joke and love the idea of having an all point guard Chicago Bulls team, this is the weirdest roster ever, and I just can't comprehend it at all. So Trey Jones probably won't even be on the team past this season. He's the most interesting player we got out of it, so you know, that's great, I guess. But we got back our own 2025 first round pick back, which is like, oh, cool. So we got our own pick back. But here's the thing, right? If we go over to the draft, you know, we've got our own pick. It was like 1 through 8 or 1 through 10 protected anyway. And I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but the Bulls are not a very good team. And after trading Zach LaVine, you have to imagine they're not going to be much better. They'll probably be worse. So we were probably going to keep this pick anyway. Most likely we were going to keep this pick. Now, was it more of a coin flip? I went and did the math, and it was about a 50-50. We were going to keep that pick at the time. Well, I'm kind of okay with that, because look, if the pick was like an 11 or 12 anyway, like, I don't know. I wouldn't have tripped that much about it. I think I would have just rather had Zach LaVine on the team, honestly, because I feel like we could have gotten something for him eventually due to his hooping. But anyway, let's go back to what AK was saying. We are in a transitional phase, and there is more to come. I don't believe that. You've told me that the past couple years. We got through the trade deadline. As we move through the rest of the season, the draft and free agency will continue shaping the future of this team. Don't believe you. That's where the plan stands. That's not anything. That's just saying we're going to keep operating as an NBA team. That's great, right? Awesome. We're committed to building a sustainable, competitive team. Haven't seen it yet. We're not okay with being in the middle. Well, you're not. You're actually below average. So that's, I just, like, I get it, right? I'm sure they're trying. But curating the team that competes at a high level every night, sometimes, I wouldn't say it's like a poor effort group by any means. We can compete for a championship. That's been our goal. You are nowhere even close because you're still in the teardown phase, right? This team hasn't even finished tearing down, right? Like we can't even start the rebuild yet because we've been tearing down for 4 years, it feels like. So the process can be long. Sometimes you're telling me, and that requires taking a step back before moving forward. We're literally going nowhere. Our commitment to that goal has not changed, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, so they trade away Alex Caruso. Let's talk about that. They traded away Caruso, right? Big part of this team for a long time. A lot of people said, okay, you can get a first-round pick for Caruso. They got Josh Giddey instead. I was actually one of the few Bulls fans very okay with that move. I'm like, look, I don't want like a future draft pick. I want young players that are good like right now. That's better. Like I already know Josh Giddey's good at basketball. And Josh Giddey's been cool this year. Like I've really enjoyed watching Giddey play. Like there's just not many people that just get basketball like he does. Like sure, is some of the defensive stuff, like on the ball, like not the greatest. Off the ball, he's really, really good defensively. He's playmaking, he's getting rebounds, like he has big scoring nights. The shooting is still kind of like, that's what it is, but I don't need Josh Giddey to be a 20-point-a-game scorer. Like that's a future starting point guard for me long term, but it's just, we need to get the other pieces too to make Josh Giddey worth it. Otherwise, it's just he's passing to nobody, right? And so he's one of the big reasons Zach LaVine was having such an amazing season. Like him and Lonzo Ball are setting people up, making their lives really, really easy for him. Cool. He's not on the team anymore, so what does Josh Giddey do? We're not so sure, right? But I liked the Josh Giddey move. DeMar DeRozan gets moved in the offseason, and we just get nonsense for him. Just nonsense. And yes, it was a sign and trade, so we're not going to get a ton for him. And I was like, okay, this is the beginning of the teardown. That's okay. Well, the teardown didn't really finish. We ended up moving Zach LaVine to the exact same team in the Sacramento Kings, and we got fuck all for it, right? It's just nonsense. Like we actually gave them a pick back. That's the craziest thing is we traded back a second round pick as well. Like it's just, I don't know. As a Bulls fan, I'm so sick of being in the middle of these things. Like I go and I look at this team, right? I'm like, okay, what do I have to look forward to this next season, right? Zach LaVine's not on the team anymore. They extended Lonzo Ball at the deadline. There were some people saying like, oh, like there was a couple people calling about him for trades and stuff like that. I'm not mad that we kept Lonzo and extended him and everything in and of itself, right? That move in and of itself is whatever, right? Lonzo's playing good again. That's awesome. He's one of my favorite players in the NBA, in all honesty. And this was before he even got to the Bulls. Like I've modeled like some of my own game off of him. And I just happen to enjoy watching him play. Him and Giddey on the same team seems a little redundant, but, you know, is what it is. Lonzo Ball's a positive player. Vucevic is still on the team for another season. Apparently, they couldn't find a way to trade him despite so many teams needing centers. He has a pretty tradable contract, and he's having a really, really good season. So I find that hard to believe that nothing could happen. It was just the Warriors interested. Nobody else wanted to make a move for him in some capacity. I find that a little hard to believe. Again, we got Kevin Huerter on the team through next season. Don't really care. Maybe he learns how to shoot again. Cool. Kobe White not being traded is an absolute travesty. That is unacceptable. Like this guy is playing over his contract, right? Like he's playing better than his contract. One of the most like valuable players in terms of salary to production in the NBA, right? He has his faults. Don't get me wrong. Like, do I see Kobe White as like a lead starting point guard on a really good team? No, not necessarily. Like, I think the playmaking's still pretty poor. I think he turns the ball over in some pretty ridiculous situations, but dude can get buckets in any way he really wants, right? He's a very, very valuable basketball player. Awesome. You could have traded him this year. He would have had another year left on his contract. So, like, this was the most valuable he was going to be. And, like, so what? Now, by the time this is done, Kobe White's going to be, like, 25 years old. Are we going to extend him again? Is that the plan? You have Giddey on the team. You just extended Lonzo Ball. Do you want him on the team as well? You have Dosunmu. Like, it's just, where does it end? How many point guards, like, legitimately, like, I know the joke is made a lot, but how many point guards or, like, 1 to 2 guards do you want on this team? Like, how many of them are you planning on playing? Like, are you bringing Trey Jones back, or was this really just a nothing thing, right? Because I don't know why you would bring Trey Jones back. I like Trey Jones, but I don't know why you would bring him back on this team. So the fact that you couldn't trade him when apparently 7 to 8 teams were interested in him, that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. So you have to extend Giddey after this season. I don't know how much you give him. In all honesty, I wouldn't give him more than like 30. I'm thinking like the 27, 28, which sounds like a lot, but like that's kind of what you pay for good young players at this point. So that's probably what I'm willing to give him. And I think there's a lot of room to develop still for Josh Giddey, which is exciting. You got Ayo Dosunmu on the team, who's not having the greatest season, but we've seen him play good basketball before. And look, dude's basically playing power forward out there fucking sometimes. So I don't know, like, I'd like to think that there's better basketball to be played, but you couldn't have moved him for somebody. I feel like you could have. Javon Carter. How many possible trades did we draw up where teams could have taken on Javon Carter this year, and we could have gotten, like, a pick for him, along with, like, a Torrey Craig or something? Like, those are interesting players. Nothing was made. Dalen Terry, I have no idea if this guy's good at basketball at this point. Julian Phillips, sometimes he's in the rotation for a little bit, sometimes he's not. I don't know. We got Zach Collins on the team. Great. Jalen Smith is here. I like Jalen Smith a lot. I really, really do. And so, what are they going to play Zach Collins over him? Are they going to play him together? I don't know yet. I don't know. I'm very curious to see what they do with that. But I don't want to see Zach Collins on the court. Like they still got Vucevic out on the court, right? So Vucevic is going to come first. That's what it is. Jalen Smith should come second. And then what? We just got an $18 million guy. We're waiting for him to fall off the books. So we're going to buy him out at the end of the year. I don't know. I really don't know. Talen Horton-Tucker. Another point guard, basically. He's been having a cool season, I guess. And then we got Buzelis, the rookie. And there's obviously one more guy to talk about. But Buzelis has been playing better as of the last, 2 weeks. I'm still not incredibly high on him, but he's certainly getting better throughout his rookie season. And so that's exciting. But, and it, obviously would be fine keeping him around. I would have been okay trading him this year, too, if I'm being dead serious with you. And I know that's kind of a mute point with things, but I'm not super thrilled about it. I'm glad he's starting now and everything. I think that makes sense. I honestly think he's one of the better players on the team, unfortunately, right now. At least he's giving a shit out there. Because we got Patrick Williams out there who we just re-signed, and at the time, I was like, yeah, it's probably a fair contract for him. We need to see some improvement, but we are seeing nothing. Patrick Williams just does not seem to have any interest in shooting the basketball at all. He's just going to go out there, play some defense, pass the ball around, and then, Bulls fans know this. You can tell when the team gets on Patrick Williams, right? Because there's certain games where he just comes out and he just starts chucking, right? And you can tell they were like, Patrick, go out there and score, dude. Because, from everything I know within this organization, this dude, dominates them in practice sometimes. He's so talented. Someone that I work very closely with has been a part of the Bulls organization and been a trainer with him. They're he's so talented, he just does not seem to do it. It's not even an effort thing. He just doesn't seem to want to, and it's so weird. It's so weird. He's just a passive person, apparently, and that's so frustrating. I want him to be so good. I do, and it was a weird draft pick at the time, but you saw the talent, and so that's why I was okay with it, but now it's looking like a rough contract right now. There's not a ton of rough contracts in the NBA anymore, but this is starting to look like it's going to be one of the worst ones out there, which is extremely disappointing. So let's take you through the last couple years of being a Bulls fan, right? So in 2019, 2020, right? You guys remember this time. Bulls are an 11 seed, right? Things are going bad. You got a bad coach in and everything. It's not going well. So, they're the 11 there. They're basically in the middle. Again, bottom middle as per usual. So then what do? They go and hire AK in April after this season. And AK comes in and, he's kind of evaluating the first half of the season. Totally fine. That makes a ton of sense. And he makes the Nikola Vucevic trade, right? He goes and trades Wendell Carter and stuff. I don't remember if this was the same year they traded Daniel Gafford, which I was so upset with. But I was like, oh, they brought in Vucevic, right? With Levine. Cool. They're trying to make some winning moves right now. This is awesome. And then in the offseason, they go get Caruso. They go get DeMar DeRozan. They go get Lonzo Ball. And you're like, ooh, this team doesn't make a lot of logical sense to me as a basketball fan, but they're trying, right? The Bulls they haven't been trying for a long time. They more so walked into Derrick Rose because of lottery luck, and then happened to have some other good players on the team at the time, and things just went well for them. They still weren't trying all that hard, right? Like, they never got the big free agents or anything. They never made trades to try to put them over the top. It's just not how they do things, right? They're like, oh, we happen to be good right now. That's awesome. Do you guys remember the Jordan days? Because that's basically what the ownership spews to us constantly, right? Which it doesn't even seem like Jordan and them boys care about this team at all. But so anyway, I'm fine with this season, right? Because we've got a signal now, we've got a direction. We go into this season, who, mind you, we finished it as a 6 this year, but the Bulls were number 1 this year. They were number 1 halfway through the season. The defense was out of this world, right? Like, you had the Caruso, Lonzo Ball, they were playing like ridiculous. They're both playing awesome. Levine's playing good defense. DeRozan's playing good defense. He's hitting game-winning shot after game-winning shot. Vucevic isn't even playing well, but things are just going good for us. Like, it's an exciting time. Lonzo Ball goes down. He's out for the season, and then he ends up being out for like 2 full years, but we fell off hard after Lonzo went down, because Lonzo was the force that kind of made everything go together. Really, they built the team around Lonzo Ball. Like, he's the connecting force. Like, he can make everything run for us. He goes down. Things fall off. Things don't go well in the playoffs, right? That's the Chicago Bulls. And we go, okay, on to the next season. Obviously, Lonzo Ball doesn't come back. But where do we finish? We finish as a 10 seed. It's a gross basketball season, one that I'm not very happy with. Shout out to the Hawks right here. They're going to be a part of this story as well. But Bulls, Hawks, down here, we're sad. We're 40-42. Make the play in. Cool. Sad, right? Then the season after that, we're up to the 9 now. We were actually worse than we were the year before. It was a dreadful season last year. It was really, really frustrating. I'm like, what future do I even have? They made no deals at the deadline or anything. They're just kind of content with the team that they have. Shout out the Bulls and the Hawks right down here in mediocrity and everything. Not very fun. We move on to this season where we're at right now. Oh, look, Bulls and Hawks, same exact place. So in all of these seasons, right? I mean, we can even go back to 2018-19. Bulls are down here, 2018-19, 2017, and everything. Oh, why are they over here? Down at the 13th seed again. When was last time we were good? When was the Wade and Butler time? So that must have been this season. Yep, that was Jimmy Butler, Dwayne Wade, Rajon Rondo. That was a fun team, actually. I liked that team. But look, it's been since 2016-17 that we've really had like anything interesting. And this was basically just like, how should I put this? Like, it was like an epilogue almost to a story, right? Because this was like after trading like D Rose and all of them guys, right? And saying like, okay, yeah, this team's not going to be anything anymore, right? That was after this season. Like, okay, the Bulls aren't going to really be anything anymore. So we brought in D Wade for the shits and the giggles, basically. Like, oh, hometown kid's back and everything. And so, I don't know, man. It's just frustrating. It's extremely frustrating. Where does this team go from here, right? I mean, you look at the draft assets that we have, and we don't even have a second-round pick this year. Like, we've got our own first. They're going to say, like, oh, look, we control our own destiny and everything now. But as you can see, we're the 10 seed right now, so we're not even going to get like a great pick. The good news is in the Western Conference, like the 13 seed is better than us, so cool, that's awesome. But as of right now, we'd get the like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so more so like 7, 8th pick right now. That's not very exciting now, is it? That's not very exciting at all. So 7th, 8th pick in a loaded draft class, but still, you want to get into the top 4. This was the year you had to be bad. You've got generational talent, like 1 through 4, maybe 5 of this draft class, and like maybe things get better. Maybe they get really lucky, and maybe the NBA tinfoil hats on. They go, okay, one of our biggest franchises still can't figure this shit out. Maybe we need to hand them a Cooper Flag or an Ace Bailey or Dylan Harper or VJ Edgecombe. I'd take any of them, but it's not going to happen. Like, it doesn't feel like it's going to happen. And even if they get a 1 through 4, it's not deserved, right? They're not doing things correctly. So I don't know. I don't know what to do with this group, y'all. I really don't. It's extremely frustrating as a Bulls fan. Like, I like the individual players on this team. Like, I really, really do. Like, I'm rooting for a lot of these guys, right? Like, these are my Bulls at the end of the day. I really, really like them. I love Lonzo Ball. I like Vucevic. Like, I want Patrick Williams to be better. I don't really care for some of the new guys that are in right now. Like, Kobe White. Like, it's great to see that he became, like, a real NBA player. I like Jalen Smith. I'm really rooting for Giddey. I like DeSumo. He's a hometown kid. Javon Carter is pretty much a hometown kid. Booz Ellis is, right? Like, I want Dalen Terry to be good. I like watching Julian Phillips run up and down the court. THT, you're exciting when you just put your head down and drive towards the rim. It's cool, right? And by the way, I like Billy Donovan. I know that's an unpopular opinion by Bulls fans, but what the fuck are you supposed to do with this? Like, he doesn't choose the roster, y'all. He does not choose the roster, and the Bulls aren't drafting anybody either. Like, I've seen some people be like, oh, the development of the Bulls. It's just been Patrick Williams since he's been there. That's like the only guy that they've taken. And like, Patrick Williams does not want to shoot the basketball. Like, you know, they're telling him like, dude, be aggressive, like go be a basketball player, and he's not doing it. And at least Buzelis is starting to get better throughout the season. So cool, but like, what are they supposed to do? What is Billy Donovan supposed to do? From everything that I know about Billy Donovan, I've got some good connections to this. Like, all his players love him and everything. He lets them play a very free style of basketball, which I do think is good for them at the end of the day. Like, I don't watch the game and go, what are they doing ever? Like, he speaks well. Like, everybody tells me he's a very commanding force. Nobody doubts his knowledge and everything. And I don't know what coach I would rather have over him. So I don't want to see people be like, they should fire Billy Donovan. You can't say shit like that and not have like another idea in mind. And like I said, I like Billy Donovan. I'd like to keep him around, honestly. Like, let's just get him a team that makes some sense. Because, like, how many point guards do you want him to roll out there right now? It's just, I don't know, man. I don't know. It's upsetting. This team isn't good. Like, it's just not it's not a well-made basketball team. Even with a Zach LaVine and a DeMar DeRozan on there, it didn't make any sense. Like, the team didn't make sense from the beginning. They were making it work through just pure effort and grit and some really smart basketball players being out there. But were we really going to do anything in the playoffs? Probably not, right? So I don't know. It's upsetting. So this is just me kind of ranting for a little bit. So I don't know. Maybe this video doesn't get a ton of views or anything like that. I don't really care. Just figured I'd been talking about doing something like this for a while. I bring the Hawks into it because I'm like, hey, Hawks fans, maybe you guys feel the same about things right now. You just don't know where you're going and everything. Like, who are we even building around? Like, you can't convince me Buzelis is like the future of this team necessarily. Like, oh, this guy's going to lead us and everything. Like, maybe, I hope so. I really hope so. I don't personally see it. And look, I'm wrong plenty of times at the end of the day, but I don't know what I'm supposed to root for because we've been tearing things down for what feels like 6-7 years now at this point. And it's exhausting, man. Just stop, just be bad for a little bit. And this was the year to be bad, but we can't. I don't know why. I don't know why. It's so frustrating. And they'll be like, oh, look, we've got our draft picks going forward and everything, but like, move some people, please. Just please move some people. Like, get some draft picks, get some young players, just be bad. Like, they blew that game against the Warriors last night. That was great. Shout out Jimmy Butler, played really well. But anyway, y'all, I'm rambling, I'm ranting. I'm just upset at this point. I need to go record the weekly update last week in the NBA video today too, and try to get excited for the Super Bowl because that should be fun at the end of the day. But to all my Bulls fans out there, let me know what you guys are thinking. If you're an outsider watching the Chicago Bulls, what do you think of them too? You won't hurt my feelings. I promise you won't, because you can't hurt me any more than I've already been hurt. But anyway, appreciate you guys as always. Talk to you later. Bye.